Welcome to the show, everyone. Proposals. So this has been a long time coming. This is a big announcement, and we can't thank you all enough for spending the hour with us. We've got Juan, our account manager here, as well as the man of the hour, Tim Jackson, who's joining to run the demo and run the show for us. So thank you, everybody, for your patience. Let's talk about the backstory of Scanifly Proposals and why we finally made the decision to build this. So put simply, it was because y'all kept asking for a better way to sell with Scanifly. But as many of you know, because we've had years-long conversations with many of our customers who have provided incredible feedback and stuck with us and been beta testers of the current tool, the requests kept coming in, and we especially saw these requests from teams who were already using the drone and the 3D model to sell. So flying the drone earlier in the sales process and needing a better way to plug that into a proposal template instead of having to design in Scanifly, export out, rebuild the proposal or the number somewhere else, or kind of wrestle with another tool's template builder, which we've heard are often rigid, overpriced, and tough to use when it comes to customizing branding, pricing, and other things. And so it ultimately made sense for us to go down this path. And Tim is a big part of that, which we'll get to in a sec. But when we think about our tool, so when we look at Scanifly Proposals versus other options on the market, which we know it's a crowded space, and what we've really learned in some of the competitive intelligence work we've done, as well as feedback from customers and from prospects, is it's not just about being less expensive, right? And here's a quote from a call just the other day. And it's no mystery. We are often up against Aurora in a lot of our conversations and a lot of our deals. It is getting incredibly competitive in the solar software landscape. But I think when you're comparing us versus Aurora or others, it's important to think about the whole partnership and not just specific features within the software, right? So with Scanifly, you're going to get Juan, you're going to get Tim's team, which are all US-based, ex-Solar pros. So Juan was a former sales rep. Tim was also a former sales rep, as well as a designer. And they're the guys leading the team that is going to be supporting you. And you're going to get a human that is supporting you that knows solar and knows your software. And another thing I mentioned is the 3D model. So the photorealistic 3D model that Scanifly produces, that now being able to be plugged into a proposal, into a selling tool, makes a huge difference. And it builds trust right there in the home from that first conversation with the homeowner. And then it also does cost less, when switching to Scanifly. So we're finding teams are typically saving 30 to 70% when moving off of multiple tools. And that's not just consolidating your proposal tool into Scanify. It's also if you're switching off a separate field tool that you might have, like Site Capture, Company Can. But that consolidation into Scanify, not only do you get the holistic partnership, but it is going to typically save you quite a bit of money as well. Admittedly, our proposal tool that you're about to see is not going to be for everyone. It's not going to be a perfect fit for everybody. We did build it for a specific type of company and contractor. And so if you're running in-house sales teams predominantly and mostly have W-2 reps, this is going to be built with you in mind. If you are going to want the ability to leverage APIs and use our APIs to scale with your business and connect with some other tools that you might have, this was built with you in mind. And if you're an SMB or mid-market company, so small to medium size installer contractor that wants speed without having to hire an outside team, this is going to be built for you. And if you're predominantly using external sales orgs, so big dealer networks, big outside sales organizations that require a ton of complex permissioning and things like that, we've got awesome partners, which many of you have probably heard of. We integrate directly with Enterflow and Pipe and are actually embedded inside their software. So those are also awesome options if that's more of the kind of makeup or profile of your company and sales motion. Now, enough of me. I want to hand it over to Tim Jackson, our Sherpa, if you will, in guiding us through the land of proposals and building this out. I have the distinct pleasure of introing him, and I want to make sure I can hype him up sufficiently here. He's built this before. So this is to help establish some credibility for Tim's involvement in this tool, right? He's he's built tools like this before. He's built the custom proposal spreadsheets and templates at previous solar companies before he came to Scanifly. He literally got his degree in project finance for renewable energy and solar. And he's been a part of all of the feedback from our customers and the requests for a proposal, or here's exactly what we wish Scanifly's proposal tool would look like, right? Like he's on the front lines with our customer success team, fielding all of that feedback. So it was a no-brainer that he should be the one guiding the strategy. And so he's worked shoulder to shoulder with our engineers on exactly what you're about to see. And so you can expect this to be a pretty cool tool that's built for a specific type of solar company and solar contractor. But you can also expect it to be a fun demo because he's been the brains behind a lot of this. So, Tim, I'll hand it over to you to tee up the demo, and then we'll get into the software.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Brad. Really appreciate that. Genuinely, I like talking about myself. Who doesn't? So, why not take this opportunity? But yeah, I think we'll dive right in. Just to add to Brad, what he mentioned, it's hard to believe a decade ago, my first job in solar is 2015, 2014, was making a proposal for the team, Excel sheet. We hate the sheet. How can we better? Let's add some drop downs and some conditional logic and things like that. I just graduated from Penn State. As Brad mentioned, my degree is energy business and finance with an energy systems option. It's a lot of words to describe basically what a proposal tool or what selling solar looks like. There's the technical aspect, there's the financial aspect, and they're very intermingled. So the first kind of project in solar, like I mentioned, redoing that, I moved on from that. I got into site surveys. I became a drone pilot. I became a designer, got NABCEP certifications. All that stuff kind of drew me away from that end of the industry, but I'd always kind of wanted to go back and finish what hadn't been fully finished. I think I did a good job then, but tech has progressed a lot. So a few months ago, we were in a call. It was beginning of the year. I think it was like February. It came up, and it just popped into my head, and I said, you know what? Let me spend some time. We have an API. What can I build with the API? If I was one of our customers, let me think through that lens and see what I can come up with as an MVP. We ended up getting pretty far with it. We spoke with, I think, over 30 companies with a bunch of different feedback calls, and the result of all of that processing, working with the team, is what we have here. So I'll share my screen and kind of walk through everything. As Brad shows here, we're going to go through 3 basic acts. The first is just going to be what a salesperson would do, the most simplified flow. Then we'll kind of go to an advanced salesperson, think project management type sales with adders and kind of more customization to get to your pricing. And then Act 3 is some of the customization and some of the cool features that we think would allow you to match the outputs that you're generating with what you have now, or even push maybe further. So really excited to walk you guys through everything, and appreciate you teaming me up, Brad. Let's do it.
Absolutely, man. Last thing we want to call out here is if you have a proposal template, if it's a PDF you use, that in-house custom built spreadsheet, if it's an Aurora template, another tools template, if you send it to us, we will build it in Scanifly for you for free, no commitment, so you can test the tool out with your proposal. Feel free to get in touch with Juan directly if you've been chatting with him, or you can send an email to hello@scanifly.com, and Tim and I will be able to get you set up with that process. So just wanted to put that out there because we'd love to get some folks to send us their templates, and we'll put it to the test and rebuild it for you in Scanify.
Cool. All right, let me share my screen here, and we will dive in. So Act 1, the simple design type flow. For those of you that have not seen the simple design in Scanifly, this is a mode where we can have sales teams editing a design to show a homeowner and kind of figure out what the production is going to be, and it's in this nice simplified environment. So imagine you're a salesperson, you just finished your design, and you want to now generate a proposal. So I'll save this design here, and then we'll go into the proposal, the kind of the document generation end of things. And so I'll go back here to that project in my account. So open up the project here. You'll see, because I have proposals enabled, you'll see it right here within the project. So whether you have a remote design or an on-site design, you can actually make a proposal with any of those. And so we'll click right into proposals, and we'll go through the flow. You'll see right away by default, it's going to grab my project here automatically. Then it's going to look at what designs I have on that project. Like I mentioned, you might have drone designs, you might have remote designs. I'll just use this max fill. Once you select your design, you can select other images, especially if you have drone images. Those can be really impactful in the proposal. Maybe other site images and other things you want to include along with that design image. So we'll create this proposal here. We'll just keep the default name based on the project name, the system size, and the date. Okay, so what just loaded here after we selected our new proposal is the editor page. This editor page is going to give us direct access to all of the different customizations that you can do in the proposal tool. And I'll actually switch here. We'll start out with the simple residential flow. As you see, I just adjusted what we call a preset up here. You can think of a preset like a grouping of settings. I have a simple one just to show a basic walkthrough with simple pricing. I have an advanced one that shows custom pricing inputs. So you can just input a price and then the tool will utilize that. A roofing example and another advanced scenario as well. So just keep that in mind and we'll kind of walk through a couple different ones. But in the simple residential mode here, we just have access to the design details, the utility rate and consumption information. We have that simple design environment embedded directly in the tool so you can make edits. And then we have our financing choices. So I'll kind of walk you through each section here, imagining I was a salesperson, and maybe we'll even update the sales name. We'll sell to you, Brad. Although I do think your house is somewhere in the account.
Yes.
We'll the full name and the address are going to come directly from the project. You'll see kind of the basic system info, what panels, what your TSRF is, all that info pulled directly from that Scanifly design. The utility rate info right here will allow you in your settings. If you are an admin, you can update a lot of different customization for the tool. And one of those first areas is the utility info. So I have two placeholders, a standard and a tiered utility, but you can give utility name and rate and all the other information there. You can also just input a manual rate. And right now, these are not time of use rates. We know that's an area that we want to expand to as we continue to build functionality in the tool. Electrical usage will come directly from the Scanifly project. And so you'll see it's already filled in here. If for some reason you don't have that in your design, you could always enter an average monthly bill or a kWh target total, and it will kind of divide them up there. And we also have a Analyze Electric Bill AI feature as well that can scan a PDF or an image of a bill. The next section, once we have our design and utility, is the design itself. You have the ability to directly edit that design just like we did in that previous view. I'll show you here. Let's turn that panel back on and let's update. You'll see the production and system size will update automatically. And then if I save that, that save will be applied directly, and things like system price and other things in the tool that are linked will update automatically based on that change. So this gives you a really easy way without having to like click between the different tools and go back and forth to be able to make those changes. And so your system size changed and that system automatically updated. In the simple flow here, the last thing that we have is the financing options. Similar to the utility options, we wanted to allow a lot of flexibility while also letting you customize. So cash purchase is just a straight cash purchase. The solar loan option, you can customize in settings and you can give different terms, rates, and names, as well as additional dealer fees if those apply. And then based on that selection and down payment and year one balloon payment inputs, you can simulate different loan scenarios. And then we have a lease and a PPA input as well. And similar to the utility and loan options, you can customize a list of kind of presets. And then based on those selections, you can adjust the inputs here to be able to feed into your proposal. I'll go back to the solar loan option and we'll pick just a provider here. We'll use a local credit union and do a $5,000 down payment. You'll see here on the right-hand side, we're showing a generate proposal button. At any time while you're making edits here, you can always click generate proposal or you can preview the information. So you'll see here, we can click that generate proposal button. And at any time, you can kind of see the changes that have been made. So you'll see here, this is our, we call it the standard proposal. So this is included with your account. You don't have to set anything up to get access to this. And you'll see the logo, the company name, the header, the subheader, all of these details are customizable in your set. And so this example here, you'll see that image we selected. customer info, system size details. We have an executive summary page that gives you a breakdown of the system cost, the cumulative cash flows over time, and then based on what your selections here are, if you'd pick monthly payment or cash or PPA or lease, all of those will update automatically. And then you'll see your production and consumption graphs, different pieces of equipment, if you have those, your panels, your inverters, your environmental details, and then the design images that we selected. And so all of these are included by default. And you can also turn on and off different pages. So if you're like, hey, I just want to have the executive summary, maybe with the cover page before saving that proposal, you have that option. So that's kind of the basic flow for a salesperson, selecting their design, adjusting the utility details, modifying the design if they need, picking their financing, and hitting generate to be able to see that kind of default doc. The kind of end of that is typically going to be saving, printing out the PDF itself to be able to save down that proposal document, or you can actually just save it directly to your albums for that project, and the proposal file will go right in there to be able to access from your albums direct. Any questions from the chat that we want to hop into before we go to the Act 2, the advanced kind of configuration flow?
We did get one from Dan here that came in that I think we can tackle right away. Does the 3D design link take it to the model without having to copy and paste to share?
Yes. So if I go back here to that PDF, you'll see, view 3D design. And I can open this up in an incognito tab. I could send this to someone, and if you send the PDF along, then they'll get access to this directly. I think since I'm streaming, the model's loading a little slower, but yes, you do not need to be logged in. That is similar to the share kind of embed links that we provide directly in Scanifly. Okay. So we'll switch here and we'll do the advanced setup. This is once again for teams that may have adders and more complex pricing. And then we'll go into like the actual setup and the back end of the tool. So this is still assuming we're a salesperson. We just selected our design. Once again, the import design details are all the same. The utility rate stuff is the same. But since we picked this advanced residential, I customized this preset to basically have everything that we could have in this builder page, the editor page. So you'll still see that design edit. You'll still see the financing options. But then below here, you'll see all these extra sections. Keep in mind, you can not only customize what's in it, so the incentives, you have full control over what incentives and the adders and so on, but you could also turn each one of these sections on and off. So if you just want your team to have access to equipment and just the stuff above, you can customize that, and really any combination of each one of these little modules you could do. So we'll go through here with the equipment one enabled. This will automatically pull in your modules from the design. And while we work to add inverters and other balance of system directly into the Scanifly 3D space, we have them as placeholders here. So you can customize in your settings, and different inverters and optimizers you could have listed here, and you can associate cost with them if you price like that. So some users are using this like a base cost per watt on the panels, and then doing cost adders for things like inverters, maybe rack, a rail, those type of different cost adders. And so that's one way you can do it. You can also put these as $0 amounts if you just want to account for the quantities and kind of show that on that default proposal. I'll click over here real quick and just show. You'll see here in the system component section, now we have an inverter listed and we have other balance of system items listed. And so that's just one example of the depth that you can go with that adjustment. You'll see the installation type as well. This allows you to factor in extra cost for a ground mount. Utilizing presets that you can set up. You'll see I have a DC and AC trench default. Let's assume it's the AC one, and we're going to do a 100-foot trench and a $500 stanchion. So this just gives you one section for a sales team to kind of easily have inputs that can have different costs associated with them based on your presets. You could, for the ground mount, do things like, add them in as equipment, linear feet of trench, and then a quantity, and have that value associated. It's another way you could do it. But we just wanted to add this as an optional section to price in those additional costs. The apply incentive section, that is very similar to the adder section. Both of those can be customized, and they are either dollar amounts, like the main panel upgrade is $2,500. They are percentage amounts, like the old federal ITC at 30%, or they are per watt amounts. So you can kind of do any of those there. you'll see as I'm clicking them, they are applying in real time and updating that system price and cost. The import adder section, this is a fairly unique thing that we're going to be offering, and this allows you in your settings to make different rules. And those rules can use things like system size or roof pitch or number of roof surfaces or total number of panels and all of those different factors, and you can make different rules. So this one right here, multi-roof complexity, is looking at the site, and if over one roof, it's adding a complexity cost for that extra. So that's another optional section you can turn on. And then I'll show as well, you have the one-off adder and discount option as well. So if you want your team to be able to override and just have a flat discount per watt or percentage cost adder or discount, they have that option as well. The last section here in the advanced setup is for sales rep. This is a custom input section. So I made sales rep as a category. I gave sales rep 2 drop downs here. And so now some of our custom proposals that we'll walk through can utilize extra information that we might not have in the tool itself. So those are all the kind of extra sections that you have for customization, either for equipment, extra trenching or ground mount costs, incentives, adders, a rule-based adder, custom one-off adders or discounts, and then custom inputs that you can really do a lot with. And so I'll click Generate Proposal on this one, and you'll see you get access to that same proposal. One was using the basic settings without all of those adders, and this one is using all of those additional adders. And so you still have this really nice breakdown, the same format of that proposal, but the flexibility to go with that depth is really nice. And so here you'll see all of those different adders that we added and all of the depth there. Now, one of the things that comes up a lot is what if I don't want to show all of these different adders? And you'll notice here right above the Generate Proposal, we have a line item visibility for toggling things like adders. So I'll just turn those off for now. They'll still account for it in the system cost. But this is just a way that depending on what you want to hide or show, you can show now, here's a gross total, here's your discount, and then your net investment. So it doesn't change the pricing, but it kind of gives you customization over what you want. Okay. I think that's the main flow for the advanced configuration, but let me just show here one of the other outputs that you can get with that, and then we'll kind of work our way back to how you can create some of those outputs. So you'll see here I have below the standard proposal, which we just generated based on the editor adjustments. I have a custom proposal, which we'll walk through in a moment. We also have reports. You'll see in the reports section, there are 7 different reports that all kind of go through different things. We have a financials, things like year-by-year cash flow. And so you always get this by default as well. Some of it goes into information about the system. Others go into the financing choices that you made. So you kind of have these documents that you can hold down as a record. And then we also have a data export. If you need to export quickly a CSV or a JSON file in a kind of a custom format to maybe put into your CRM or save down as a record, you can do that as well. Let's peek over here at the custom proposal, and I'll just show you a cool example here, and then we'll kind of walk through how you can get that. So as Brad mentioned at the beginning, we want users to send us their proposals so that we can kind of build it into the tool. And these custom examples, I think I have about 20 or so, are all just different examples using the custom flow we have. And so you'll see here, there's different system info and customer name and all of those details. And all of that updates automatically with all the changes I'm doing in editor. So all of the work you're doing here will also apply to all of these exports. And so you could make little one-pagers, you could make a multi-page proposal. You'll see things like the selections that we have for incentives will automatically apply and kind of build out a table there. And so we have a bunch of different examples, and I think some of the beginning slides that Brad showed were some of the silly examples. Here's a old Windows theme example, but you'll see once again the design image and the system details and the pricing and the environmental stuff here towards the bottom. All of those details are actually live and updated based on the changes you made. So that's the power of the custom proposals, and we kind of walk through what that looks like in terms of some of the customization. Brett, if you want to open up any questions, if we have any other questions.
Yeah, no other questions yet. I am going to, as we kind of shift gears into going deeper beyond that sales rep workflow, I just launched a poll. We'd love to know the spread of different tools that are being used by everyone else, and gives us a sense for maybe how to gear some of the things that we show for the remainder of our time here too, just knowing what most people are familiar with. So I just launched that. I'll leave it up for a little while.
Fantastic. And it looks like we have a decent amount of time. We'll be able to go through this, and then we'll have some Q&A at the end as well. So Act 3, we'll talk through configuring your workspace, presets, templates, and customization. Of course, that is really where the rubber meets the road with any of these tools. While it's great, I think that we have the standard proposal and the customization of what's on the editor, what really determines all of these different data points, what piece of equipment do you have and what defaults are you using, is the settings. So let me just go back here to the home page, do a quick log out here. So bear with me for one moment. I'm going to switch users and we'll log back in. So now I am a sales manager. So the sales manager has some extra permissions. I will click into proposals just to show what this looks like. And we will go into our global settings. So you'll see now that I have access to settings, there's a lot of different customization and depth. I think for the purpose of the webinar, I will not go through every single different setting, but we'll kind of click through around in the order here. As I mentioned presets earlier, this is like a grouping of settings. I think the ones I have here are decent examples. And so advanced residential, I have a lot of settings on the builder page, a lot of adders. The pricing's complex and requires the user's input. That's one example. The advanced residential with a custom price. We talk to a lot of users that are like, I love my pricing tool. I don't want to get out of my spreadsheet. I like the flow that you have, but I just want to be able to type in a price. So I made a preset that basically does that. You could do your design work, all the system size info gets pulled in, but then you just have one input, you type in a price number, and that becomes your system price. There's a roofing example, a simplified residential, and so on. So you could have different territories and use presets for each territory. You could have different skill sets of your salespeople and use it for that. Or you could have different industries like roofing, HVAC, and kind of group your presets and settings like that. The next section here, company details. You could do a lot of customization with your branding. And like I mentioned, the default proposal and color scheme and what shows on it is very customizable. Media library quickly is a way for you to add image assets that you can use in custom proposals. And you'll see here, close-up of a solar cell or a solar farm image. All of these can then be used in that customization. And we'll walk through what that looks like. PDF content pages, if you want to have pages before or after your proposal, whether it's a custom proposal or the default, things like spec sheets or about us pages, you can include those as well. The line item visibility, we toggled that on briefly. This is how you can hide different costs. Maybe you want to have a bunch of adders, but you don't want to necessarily tell your customer, hey, I'm adding this cost for an EV charger rough in. You just want to pitch them on the overall price of the system and not, concern them. This gives you globally the ability to set those, which then can be overridden if you want to use them in the editor. So customization of what you show. And then the defaults and assumptions. So your utility library and setup, adding your utility info, your project builder section visibility. That is what shows on that editor page. That's what allows your salespeople to have control over different things. So you can easily toggle all of these on if you want the advanced customization, or toggle most of them off if you want the simple type of flow. Pricing for the modules themselves, you can either do a base price per watt. In this case, it would be $3. Or you can toggle on module pricing and do tier level pricing, either across all of your panels, so different tiers, and then all of your panels follow those rules, or per panel pricing. So each panel has its own wattage ranges and price per watt amounts. So 3 different levels of customization for the pricing. The ground mount preset, once again, that shows on the builder page, and these are defaults to be able to have for those inputs to be able to price additional costs for a ground mount. The loan provider library, same thing as the others. It'll allow you to give a name of a provider, interest rate, term, and admin fee if applicable, and that will show up in your editor page. The lease and PPA provider libraries, nearly identical to that. And the environmental impact calculations just give you some regional control over the environmental impact calcs. And so before I kind of go into the other customization, as I mentioned before, the loan providers, the lease providers, and the utility are areas where we do give you that full customization and control, but we also know that the market, it's really common to have APIs, given an address, tell me all of my utility tariff rates, or given this financing choice, directly integrate with these providers. All I'll say for now is these are definitely areas we're exploring and want to add over time. So we hope the customization you have now will get you most of what you need, but we understand that this is not the kind of end solution here for a lot of different scenarios, particularly time of use and more complex tariff rate scenarios like in California. So that's something we do want to add into the software. We're going to work in the core Scanifly platform before kind of branching off and adding some stuff in here. So those are all your basic settings. I'll kind of flash here a couple other areas and we'll go into the builder. Equipment is pretty straightforward. As you can see, you can add inverters and optimizers. Those show in that equipment builder section. You don't have to give them a cost if you don't want to price them, but you can use it either as a pick list or as kind of a cost to adder list. Same with other balance of system. It's identical. It's just a different category, not inverters and optimizers and not electrically. So in your default proposal, it shows in a different section. And when making customer proposals, you can use them in different ways. And then that module pricing is what I had mentioned before. When you toggle that setting on, you can either do per panel pricing or group and overall tier pricing.
Hey, Tim, sorry, real quick to stop you, but while you're still on pricing, we had a question from Amanda asking, does our design support a complicated price per watt structure that differs per panel, per quantity, and per territory?
Yes. So yes, it does the different structure, yes, per quantity, and then you would be able to create territories with presets. So if I was in that scenario, I'd say have 2 or 3 territories. Territory 1 has its own preset, which you use the pricing here. And the group overall would be every single panel. So I'll just do 10,000 watts at $3 per watt. And then let's do 10,000 to, I will just keep it at infinity. So, and then we'll go down maybe to 250. So if I kept this pricing, all of my panels in this preset, if selected, would be 0 to 10,000 watts would be $3 a watt, and if 10,000 or greater would be $250 a watt. Or you can do that per panel. So if I sync my library here, you'll see that it should grab those, and then I can do that same setting adjustment per panel. So we do want to make this a little easier because if you're updating multiple presets, we understand that can take work, but you should be able to have the flexibility as it stands for getting exactly what you need right now. I'm going to discard those changes. Okay, so I think, the next area here, and this could almost be a call in and of itself, so I'll try to stay high level here and then get in the builder to kind of finish it off. This is where the customization of different formulas. Think Microsoft Excel. One of the reasons that a lot of you on this call or people in solar are still using Sheets or Excel is because of the level of customization. So we wanted to try to balance offering some of that while also offering the rigid structure of the tool itself, so you don't have to deal with the stuff you have to deal with in Excel. So there's about 6 different types of variables you can use. The custom is just making a rule. So maybe look at system size and multiply by a certain factor, or, look at the number of roofs and try to determine like man hours and all these different types of calcs that we do to try to figure out pricing. And this just allows you to kind of freeform, make new variables, make new basic rules, multiplication, addition, division, all that stuff. And then this is the first area I think we've shown it. We have some AI assistant throughout the tool. And so you could basically use the AI to assist with creating this. So you could do is roof complex if over 2 segments output complex. And then generate formula name and description and generate all. And the idea here is that taking plain language and dealing with what we have in terms of the variables, look at all the other data points, and so you'll see here, is roof complex, determines if it's complex based on number of segments. If calculation of number of panels greater than 2, it's complex, otherwise simple. I'd probably switch that out for number of roof segments, but you get the idea there. Then I could use all these fields. It's showing as complex since there's more than 2 panels, and so I could create that variable and use that in other ways. And we'll kind of build on that here. The next area is AI variables. I think for right now, just know that you can basically create prompts. So you can, as an example, system overview, write a concise customer-friendly overview of the proposed system, and then it will look at all of the values. So we'll just do that here. We'll preview what it looks like. And you could maybe use this in like a custom text block on a proposal, just to have like a nice little thing. Proposed solar systems, a 9.6 kW roof mounted, consisting of 24 panels, estimated to produce, so on and on. So there's a lot of potential with using this, but it's not needed or like a direct part of the tool. You don't have to use that. The input variables, this is where I'd mentioned the sales rep and other things. This allows you to have other inputs or customizations. I think somebody had asked, can we quote windows? And okay, put an input for number of windows. Then we can use a custom formula to determine the cost, number of windows multiplied by the cost of a window. And then we put that as an adder to be able to increase. So there's a lot of different things you can do. And I think the sales rep example that I had, sales rep name and territory were a good example. The adders and incentives, we pointed those out on the builder page. I think they're pretty straightforward. And once again, they're the same, but in reverse. An adder can either be a flat, a per watt, or a percentage amount. And once you input that adder, then you select it on the builder and it applies to that system price. Incentives are nearly identical. The only real difference is that you have a cap option. So you'll see here, New York State tax credit, 25%, but it's capped at $5,000. So you can add a cap to incentives. And then additionally, you can change the order that the incentives are applied. So if you need to apply the New York State before the federal, then you can put that first, and then those will follow the kind of logic rules as you're applying them. And then the last section is import adders. These are rule-based adders. You'll see multi-roof complexity. If the imported design segments are over 3, then take the number of segments and multiply by $500. So this will basically multiply out as a complexity adder. These can be all rule-based and they apply automatically, so you don't have to have your team, clicking on and off adders. You can just make those rules. So once again, there's a lot of depth in here. That's why we do want to just offer to make your initial custom proposal for you and then kind of walk you through. Here's what we did. Here's how it works. Because I know that level of complexity for some in the beginning will be a little confusing.
Cool. We also got, as you're walking through the adders, will batteries be an option to integrate into proposals?
Yes. So, and this kind of gets to the time of use thing I'd mentioned before with utility rates. There's one qualifier which may be big for some users. So I could, in the other balance of system, I could add battery. We could call it whatever the name of the battery is. You could give it the unit cost, representative of what you do, and you could even set up some other rules that have each battery costs a different amount, and as you get more batteries, they cost less. So you can do those type of things. You can account for the cost of it, and you can show it as a line item. But we currently don't have a way, using your utility production, using your utility consumption, using your design production, we don't have a way to hourly match those up. And so we can't do a savings calculation based on utility rates and the battery. So those are when we add the ability to pool those rates and can do some of those calculations, then we will be able to add in batteries. So it's something we expect to add. So if you need that level of financial, the savings, the impact, which I know is very important, certainly not underselling the importance of that, but yeah, right now you can only account for the cost of those batteries. Okay, I think we have about 5 minutes left. I'll just kind of rapid fire through this, but I think it's pretty exciting. And this is where our team can work with yours really closely. So we wanted to offer customization. That's why we offered a lot of the other things I had mentioned, the variables and what's visible and the presets. But the last thing we really wanted to do was offer some level of customization on the templates. Previously, I had showed those custom proposals. Kind of see here, and they all look really nice, and you have a lot of different options, but how are they actually made? That's what the template builder is. The template builder really allows you to do a lot, but it's definitely there's a bit of a learning curve when you first start out with it. And so I'll just show an example here. We'll do a new template, and we'll kind of walk through a couple basic things. The first I think is cool is we have AI built in. Once again, you don't need to use this, but if you'd like to make your life easier, it's an option. Before the call, I wrote down just a basic prompt here, and so I'll just throw this in as a cool example here. And we'll generate a one-pager here. So let me click generate. Now what it's going to try to do, the AI is going to look at all those variables that we have. And so in this case, you have the gross system cost and incentives and net system cost. All of those details are automatically going to get pulled in. So you see it took a few seconds. We'll save this template down. And then let me open a proposal and just show you how that data fills in. So you'll see here, if I go to custom, that is the proposal page we just made. It was template 25. You'll see it grabs that design image, the system info, the offset, and all of those different details. So functionally, what I think this kind of shows you is how that works. Now, the way I just did that was using a one page. We called it magic mode. So it's kind of coding up this page for you. I'll show you one other way that you can do this as well. Kind of reset this page. And then I'll paste that same prompt in, and I'll turn off this magic mode. And we're just going to do not making one big block, but using the individual blocks in the block editor to be able to add in those same data points. And this, I think, visually is easier to kind of understand what's happening here. And then I'll show, probably have one other thing to show after this. Oops. That's what we get for doing this live. Let me just do this. Get rid of that prompt, and I'll just hit cover page, and we'll try to do that quick. Okay, perfect. So you'll see here, we filled in the page, and if I press save and preview, you'll kind of see here, yeah, solar proposal, Brad's name is there since he's the customer. Our company logo is there since it's in our company settings. The address is the site, system size, all of this. And so this one pager was made using the blocks themselves. And so you'll see here I can kind of click around and address and customer address and all these different variables. So you have access to basically everything, system size, all the different data points. You know, if you're financing, your loan cost, every one of these has a different data point. And either manually using AI, using our team, we can kind of recreate your proposals for you. And so that's where, if I show some of the other examples, and I think we've kind of rounded out, to get to a proposal like this, you know, multi-page proposal, system design, you know, you have your mods, your inverters, your roof coverage, your monthly production. That is how you can build a page with this level of customization for your styling, you know, for your kind of walkthrough talk track. And so each one of these was made in different ways, utilizing different builder techniques. You know, whether it's a roofing proposal, a solar proposal, the MySpace examples. I think Brad had some of those. The newspaper one I think is my favorite. That really just showcases the flexibility that you have. I don't think that necessarily anyone should use this newspaper proposal to try to sell. Might get some attention, but that just shows, you know, the styling, just the depth that you can go to, whether it's for something like this, just to make an impact, or something more classic to have multi-page, more generic type proposal. I think that kind of rounds out Act 3 in a sense. We covered presets, templates, customization. I mean, it's kind of really the intermingling of all these different settings, you know, using your presets for different territories, using your template builder for roofing proposals and solar proposals, or, you know, maybe just a one-pager that you want to show to somebody just to see if that'll get their interest. You know, here's a one-page doc, easy to generate. But it's really, how does all this stack together? How do you customize? How do you price? How does your team work with it? And we can work along with you as we continue to build out some of those more advanced integrations, time of use rates, battery modeling, you know, all that stuff.
Fantastic. We had a question from Todd. Are users able to edit the technical details, design details report? Would that be another custom report?
So yeah, so either this page, if this is what you meant, the technical design details like this, these are static reports, but like, we'll just see here, maybe this is probably a stretch of what we can do. But yes, we could recreate this with you in kind of a custom format. So if you like any of the defaults we have, you know, within reason, we can customize it. Let's just see if this even works here. Let's try it. But yes, we can take, so if you really like one of those, whether it's a report, the custom, if you have something in mind, or the standard, I just wanted to give a bunch of different options. We wanted to give a bunch of different options for flexibility. So if you see something you like, or something you don't like, or even from another provider that you're like, oh, this would be great to have, we can explore that.
Sweet. So I know we're at time. We can stay on a little bit later if needed, given the delayed start. But if there are any other questions, please, this would be the best time to do it if you haven't already. So if anyone else does want to see anything or have any questions, please drop them in the chat or the Q&A right now, and we can tackle them real quick. We did get a couple questions though. So,
and there you go, by the way, it did work. It was, you got to talk through it, but you see, yeah, I literally just copied and pasted that thing. Of course, this is not as flashy as that, but it gives you, once again, an idea of how quickly that you can create some of these. So now we have that second page is mostly the same as the technical design detail page.
We got this question from Amanda.
Yes. So yes, we can do it, and we can kind of walk through how that could work. I'll just show a fast example. One way, depending on how you need to account for that, like if you just need to list out that SREC, then you could do a custom formula, and then we could just say make an SREC example, take system output KWH and multiply by 0.05, 0.04. There we go. Of course, you could make that multiplication factor an input. So you could have an input on your proposal and call it like SREC value amount. And then you could make a rule like this that looks at your production, multiplies it by that value that you input. Let's just use a fixed value of 0.04. And you'll see here, based on my production, my SREC is 320.8. We'll turn that into a currency. So it's 320.80. And we'll create that. And then if I wanted, I could probably put that. Let's go to our template builder. Perfect. Go to template builder and then add SREC value, and we'll refine this doc. And it should be able to see that now we have a variable called SREC value. Since I have this page selected and I hit refine, it's going to try to keep what's there and then see if it can add in that SREC value. We'll see. But hopefully that gives you an idea there. You can certainly account. It's similar to the batteries. We can account for the dollar amount of that SREC, but it's a little bit harder for us to like fold that into like the savings, amount. But there's certainly ways we can do that.
Sweet. And then Dan was asking about what's included versus what would cost additional. And for that, Dan, everything you see within the proposal tool itself, there's nothing that's gated or, parts of the tool that costs one price, and then to get access to the others, it's going to be a higher cost. So you get access to everything in the proposal tool. And it is really based on your number of projects, so overall Scanifly project volume. So for current customers who aren't currently using it, you can talk to Juan and he'll walk through what you need to do to get it turned on in your account. All new customers, everyone will have access. It just depends on the number of projects that will determine the total cost. And of course, more projects you have with Scanifly, there's some unit economics built in there, so the pricing gets more favorable. But that's kind of the gist around cost. It does depend on total project volume that will determine the specific unit cost. But everything you see in the proposal tool is what you get. We don't gate anything, and there's nothing that we're hiding behind another subscription tier or anything like that.
Nice. And as a nice finish there, in case anyone was watching, because I was waiting, I think I had an AI model, a too advanced one. Depending on which one you choose, it goes faster, but it did work. Took a minute. So it added SREC value. So there are easier ways to add that in, but I think it showcases the idea there. Within a minute or two, we had the question about SREC, and then boom, okay, now it's in a custom proposal. So yeah. Hope that hammers it home.
You're the man, Tim. Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody for joining, and enjoy the rest of the week.
Yep. Thank you all.
See y'all.